It's time to talk running backs and fullback.
Inside, and a beauty! Hall running free! Brees Hall inside the 10! He's gonna score!
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Talking Jets with Tigo. My name is Tigo, and today we're going to be talking about the running backs and singular fullback that I like in this draft. We're going to be talking top 5 running backs in the NFL draft, and we're going to talk about Hunter Luepke, who's the only real fullback coming out in this draft. Now, let's start with the fullback, just because there's only one to talk about. Everyone else is going to really kind of look at tight ends to play fullback, and that's not what Hunter is. Hunter is a true fullback, and I think that's very, very interesting. Now, while the Jets might not be in on a fullback, we have Nick Bawden, who actually plays the fullback position exceptionally well. He is an interesting guy to keep an eye on because I think his skill set and what he brings, specifically when you look at like the Shanahan tree of coaching and what they're being able to do and get out of guys like Kyle Juszczyk, and the fullback is starting to come back. We're starting to see more and more rushing offenses come into the fold as defenses have gotten lighter and smaller and really focused on speed. You're starting to see the idea of these big backs and the fullback coming back. So he's an interesting undrafted free agent to keep an eye on out of North Dakota State. Very, very interesting guy. And that's the only fullback we're going to talk about. We're going to be talking about running backs in today's video. We're going to be ranking my top 5 running backs, explaining why I have them where I do, and going down the list of the running backs. I think that this should follow a very similar kind of trend with everybody that you're probably seeing elsewhere in the 1, 2, and 3. Where I get a little bit tricky is at 4 and 5. 1, 2, and 3 in the sense of the running back room seems really clear cut. You have the best running back in the draft, the second best running back in the draft, the third best running back in the back, and then it's an absolute crap show. It's what flavor of running back do you like? And I try, when I'm looking at running backs, I try looking and thinking about, you know, what does this guy project into? What does this guy do right now? What is his skill set? And in the, let's say, 4 or 5 years that'll be this running back's career in the NFL, what can they accomplish? And I think I got a really cool set of guys here. So let's hop right into it. Number 1, we're going to start with the Texas Longhorn, and that's Bijan Robinson. Of course, he's the number 1 wide receiver in the draft. Number 1 running back in this year's draft. He is the only running back that I have a first-round grade on. He is an elite level prospect. I keep hearing this term being thrown out with him in generational. I don't like that term for Bijan. I don't think he is a Saquon Barkley-esque type of player. Saquon, when he was coming out, had generational talents and skill sets. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Bijan. He's probably easily one of the most, if not the most gifted athlete in this year's draft, maybe only behind Nolan Smith because he's an absolute freak. But when you take into consideration how Bijan plays and like the speed and the size that he plays at, he looks like when he's running like he's a sub 200 pound back that's running out there, and he's easily carrying 220, 215 pounds when he's running, and he plays up to that size. He has a really, really nice speed element to his game. Ran a 4.46 at the combine. He's really explosive, grading in over the 75th percentile in both the vertical jump and the broad jump, which just shows how insanely explosive he is. And then his quickness and all of the things that he provides, his speed, bursts, agility. And then you also got to take into consideration that he also can essentially play wide receiver. You can line him up out wide and feel comfortable that he's going to be able to do that he's going to be able to create separation and all of those things. Now, there are a couple of concerns when it comes to his play style. And I think specifically is he has a knack for creating extra yards, right? And making that first guy miss and making the guys like dancing and making a guy miss. But he has a tendency to try to make the guy miss with his happy feet and with all of those things. And there are certain situations where I would just like for him to remember that you are 5'11", 220 pounds. Just drop a shoulder into a guy. Make him regret coming up to tackle you. There is a place for that in the NFL. And too often does he try to get fancy with it. And I think that's one of the reasons why he's suffered so many injuries. I think when I was looking at his injuries over the last 3 seasons, he's had a back injury, an elbow injury, a shoulder injury, and a neck injury, all in the last 3 seasons. And I think a big part of that is from playing a little bit too delicate on his feet and getting hit from awkward angles, where if he would just accept the impact when you know that there's no space for you to create extra yardage by making a guy miss, don't make the guy miss. Create extra yardage by running through him. Hit him and fall forward, and that would be a part of his game that I would love to see. I think he absolutely could probably be a top 10 pick. I think specifically at 10 to the Philadelphia Eagles, but from 10, he can really be a pick that goes anywhere in the draft from 10 all the way to the second round or something like that. The next guy that we're going to be talking about is Jahmyr Gibbs, the running back out of Alabama. Now, Jahmyr Gibbs is really interesting when you look at your prospects because he is a little bit, I believe, of an older prospect because of his time spent at Georgia Tech before transferring to Alabama. But again, he's a running back that I have who can go as early as 20, not really, but like 21 in this NFL draft. There is a realistic expectation that maybe a guy like a Jahmyr Gibbs can sneak into the first round. I think the thing that's ultimately going to keep him out of the first round is his lack of size. At 5'9", sub 200 pounds, he just doesn't provide a size in the running back room that you feel super comfortable with. And that's an issue specifically when you're talking about taking a guy in the first round. He has absolutely insane speed at the combine. He ran a 4.36. So he has that game-breaking, running away from you kind of speed. He's also insanely quick and bursty and has agility for days. And so he has that ability to make guys miss. But when you're talking about a guy who's as small as he is 5'9", under 200 pounds, you really have a hard time looking at him when it comes to, like, as a feature 3-down back. It's really hard to justify that. He has all of the skills in the world, but I think that his place in the next level is probably as a 3rd-down back, as a receiving back, as one of those guys. I guess Michael Carter would be the best example. Maybe he doesn't have the size to be a full 3-down back, but has that elusiveness and that ability to get open. And once he has the ball and he has open space, to make that first guy miss. And that's what Jahmyr Gibbs absolutely has. Now, the one difference here is I think Jahmyr Gibbs has breakaway speed. I think he has the ability to, once he makes that first guy miss, if he sees open field, no one's catching him, in my opinion. He just, again, this is where, as a receiving back, on 2nd down and 3rd down, like if you're doing a play action pass out of the 2nd down, like this is the guy you want in the flats for your quarterback. This is the guy that you want to dump the ball off to and say, okay, go and create space, because he's going to make a cornerback miss. He might make the first linebacker miss. He might make the safety miss and turn a play that might only be 2 or 3 yards by making that first guy or second guy miss into a 5, 6, 7 yard game, or hell, take it to the house, depending on if the wide receiver and the tight end can block well. So I love me some Jahmyr Gibbs. I think that he has a very interesting role, and going to the right team where where he's not the feature back is going to really, really help him. I think of places where he can be a part of a really good tandem. Houston really comes to mind if they want to use a 2nd round pick on a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs and get their, what I assume is going to be their new quarterback, another running back, because remember that they got Dameon Pierce out of Florida, which is a completely different style running back than Jahmyr Gibbs. And so now you've got this really good tandem and a really wide variety in your running back room, and introducing that West Coast scheme that you're going to see Houston running. Now, again, I love me some Jahmyr Gibbs, and I think that he's going to do some really interesting things at the next level. Now we're going to be talking about my number 3 running back in this draft, and that's Zach Charbonnet of UCLA. A lot of you may remember that before he was at UCLA, he was in Michigan before he lost his job to Hassan Haskins. And since transferring to UCLA has been one of the most productive backs in the NFL. The thing that really made me fall in love with Zach Charbonnet and really liking his tape was I saw that he was given a player comp for Chris Ivory, a New York Jet, and I immediately started falling in love. Now, when I started watching Charbonnet and really understanding and seeing, okay, what is this guy's skill set? What does he provide? What does he do? Where is he going to fit in the NFL? And he truly can be used. He is 6 foot, 215 pounds, plays at that size, has really, really long arms and big hands, and is just a strong player. And when you put all of that into your consideration, and the fact that he has that innate ability to just break tackles and get extra yards and make that first guy miss and does all of those things, you look at it and you go, wow, this guy seems like he is an insanely versatile back. And especially because he also has a receiving skill set. And then you go, okay, if this guy has all of these things, why is Zach Charbonnet running back 3 and not running back 2? Well, he doesn't have the speed to back up his play style. And that's the reality of it, right? He plays and carries 215 pounds, 6 foot. I think he is trying to even play at 220 pounds. He carries that incredibly well, and he has soft hands, and he's insanely elusive. But remember the conversation as Jets fans, if you're a Jets fan watching this, if you think about specifically the comment that Michael Carter made after his rookie year, which is he wishes that he was 1 yard faster because then the guys wouldn't catch up to him. That's what I feel like about Zach Charbonnet. I wish that he was 1 or 2 yards faster, because if he was, he could be in the conversation for a running back that you take in the first round. Like legitimately, if he had the speed to really, really break away from defensive backs and linebackers so that he doesn't get run down, he could be in that conversation, and I truly think that. But he just doesn't. He doesn't have that ability. He doesn't have that skill set. And teaching speed is one of the hardest things to do, especially at a guy at his size. He ran a 4.56, I believe, at the combine. 4.53 at the combine. And so that's not speed that's going to get you away from linebackers or DBs or anything. With these guys running 4.3s, 4.4s, hell, you're now seeing defensive ends running 4.4s. You're going to get chased down and you're going to get caught. He absolutely, though, can be, if you're in need of a bell cow running back, to be the first piece in what you're inevitably going to turn into a tandem, Zach Charbonnet is absolutely that kind of guy. I look at Zach Charbonnet, and I think keeping him in LA to the Chargers in the second round makes a ton of sense. We know that they're not going to pay Eckler, and Eckler's going to run out the rest of his deal this year and probably is going to play. You add Zach Charbonnet into that mix, and now you've got a really scary running back tandem to help Justin Herbert out. So I love me some Zach Charbonnet. Now we're going to running back 4. Now, this is where the guys, the running back 4 to running back 15, the gap between them isn't that great. You can see any of those guys go as early as the 3rd and go as late as being an undrafted free agent. But when it comes to guys that I originally did not want to like, and then after watching him, I fell in love with, Israel Abanikanda is that guy. Israel Abanikanda played at Pitt, was one of the most productive running backs in football last year, totaling 1,400 yards. Absolutely insane. And the biggest thing with Israel Abanikanda is that speed speed is the name of the game when it comes to Israel Abanikanda. It's speed plus speed plus speed plus speed. And then when you partner that up with his size, he's 5'11", 215, he fits the mold perfectly of what a running back should be at the NFL and in the next level. Really, you want smaller, wider, fast as all hell kind of guys. When he runs like he's angry at the ground. The guy is insane. Now, why is he running back 4? Why is he not higher up on this list? He doesn't really have a breaking tackle ability. He doesn't have the real make the first guy miss or to do that. He runs. If he sees guy, he knows he's not going to make the guy miss, so he's going to run right into the guy, and then he's going to fall forward. And yeah, like that's kind of his thing. But even then, he doesn't really get load up for the hit. He doesn't like lower his shoulder. He more just runs into a tackler kind of a thing. And so it kind of infuriates me. Like, dude, you're 5'11", 220 pounds. Play like it. Drop a shoulder. Hit a guy in the square in the chest, and that's where he can shine. A great example of a guy to think about when you want to compare play styles in a sense of like what he does in the open field. Think of like a Ty Johnson, specifically with the Jets, right? He has that game-breaking speed, and if you can get him into open field, and if you can get him into open space, and if you can make the blocks to where he sees nothing but green grass, not a single person is catching him. Israel Abanikanda has that type of speed. He ran a 4.3 at his pro day. The guy just runs and is explosive. But if he can start playing up to his size, and if he can develop a stutter step, a something to develop into his game, adding on to the fact of his size and speed, he can legitimately be a feature back in the NFL, but more than likely, he's going to be a speed back. He's more than likely going to be a guy that you probably want to take into a wide zone running scheme so that he can build up momentum, build up speed, as your guards and as your tight ends and wide receivers and all are pulling to try to get all of the blocks to create the open space. And if you can do that, and if you can give him a cutback lane, that's where he's going to shine, right, in a wide zone run scheme. This is a guy I hope falls to the 4th round for the New York Jets to take, but there is a real chance that Israel Abanikanda goes in the 2nd, goes in the 3rd, goes in the 4th. He is legit one of my favorite running backs in this year's class. I love the kid. And now we go on to running back number 5, according to Talking Jets with Tigo, and that's Dwayne McBride of UAB. Now, let's start by saying that one of the biggest concerns I have about Dwayne McBride is the fact that he didn't really play any real level of competition at all in his time at UAB. I would have loved to see what he looked like at an SEC school. I would love to see what he looked like in a Power 10 school or something like that. Any Power 5 school, if we're being honest. But you cannot sleep on this kid's production. 1,300 yards in 2021, 1,700 yards in 2022. The guy just runs insanely well. Now, he's a bigger back at 6'2", 215. He's got great feet and ability to, like make guys miss, and he's real, he doesn't play like he's 6'2", 215. You see that. You see him play like that, but he doesn't look like he's playing at 215. He looks like he's playing at 195 pounds, but then you see someone trying to tackle him, and you're just like, well, now he looks like he's bigger than 215 pounds. It's a crazy combo of elusive power that he brings, and just insanely productive in college. Now, why is he running back 5? Why isn't he higher up on the board? He is a non-contributor in the pass game. Like, that's not me saying that he can't do it, but at UAB, he was asked to catch 10 passes in 321 career passing snaps. He was throwing the ball 10 times. That's an abysmal rate when you do that. And then he also doesn't have that game-breaking speed. He doesn't have, like, if he gets into the open field, he's going to hit the end zone. He's probably going to get chased down. He's probably going to get tackled from behind. And those are the things that you worry about. Now, if you think that you can develop him into a passer, that's a great, great guy. But realistically, he probably projects to be a two-down back, first and second down, short yardage situation, run it up the middle, have him hit a guy and fall forward, and really kind of do those things. He can probably play in a wide zone run scheme as well, but like a gap power running scheme is probably where he's going to do his best work. And again, if you can just get him into the open field, he'll make that first guy miss and turn what should be a 4-yard gain into like a 20-yard gain. But he doesn't have that ability, like Breece Hall does, where he turns what should be a 4-yard gain by making the first, the second, and the third guy miss. He's going to turn it into a touchdown because he can make the first, the second, and the third guy miss. The problem is that first guy's going to just chase him down because he doesn't have that game-breaking speed to get away. And those are Tigo's top 5 running backs of the 2023 NFL Draft. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. And last but not least, go Jets.